Good day again, everyone. So this is now part two of my report. For this part, we will be focusing on the basis in the preparation of assessments in conjunction with the new normal. So this part is based from the webinar I attended entitled Conducting Assessments on Online Distance Learning by Sir John Christopher B. Mesana. So this is a webinar conducted by Vibal. According to the speaker, he was able to come across this research by de Guzman wherein there was a coined term that was mentioned, and that is COVIDification. So what is COVIDification? COVIDification of education is the adaptive move or response of academic institutions to reconfigure the content, delivery processes, and modes of assessments, capitalizing on available technological infrastructure and means such as synchronous and asynchronous that are accessible to both teachers and learners at home to ensure the achievement of agreed upon learning standards and competencies. So, mahaba yung definition, pero based on my understanding, COVIDification is simply a method of migrating what we used to do in the old normal to the new normal setup, wherein we are forced to redesign our content, reevaluate our delivery of the lessons, and modify our mode of assessments to cope with the call of this challenging time so that our students at home, kahit nasa bahay sila, we are still able to provide them with or guide them in learning the competencies that DepEd is also aiming for the students to learn per grade level. All right. So according to Sir Mesana, we have to look into these five factors as we prepare our assessments. So we have actualization, frequency, difficulty, scheduling, and feedbacking. He was also able to e- elaborate these factors one by one. So what is actualization? According to the speaker, we have to ask this question. So number one, how are my resources? Practicality. Number two, are my test results consistent? Will the other teacher score the same way? Or in other words, reliability. Three, what should I measure? Will my test help me measure that? Or in other words, validity. And the fourth one is how will the use of this test affect the stakeholders? Or in other words, impact. So let's take a look at these factors one by one. For letter A, practicality. So according to the speaker, we have to be realistic about the resources that are available to us. So as teachers, what do we have? Do we have an electronic device such as laptop or smartphone in order to conduct and construct our assessments? Because if not, then we have to adjust. And then number two, we have to consider the time. Constructing assessments is really time consuming. And also, when we give it now to the students, we have to ensure that the students will be able to accomplish the task at a given time. So we have to make sure that our allotted time is enough for them to accomplish the assessment. And then money, we have to make sure that yun nga, be practical. It won't be costly for us teachers and at the same time for our students. Expertise. For example, we plan to let the students use a web tool. We as teachers should be responsible enough to explore these web tools first before we instruct the students to use the web tool. Otherwise, all we will get from the students are questions about navigation, and it will really disrupt how they will how will they perform the assessment. And then personnel who will facilitate these things. So if it's only you as teacher, then good because you are able to manage everything on your own. Three, in connection with number one, you have to check your students. What resources do they have at home? We have to accept the fact that there are students who might not be able to afford electronic gadgets. So we have to determine this. And I believe in the enrollment forms that DepEd asks the students or the parents to fill out, may survey na ata dun about their chosen mode of learning and what um, resources do they have at home. So it's a very good move. Once DepEd collates those answers, then they will be able to provide resolution na now how can the teacher and the student meet halfway. So practicality. Next, reliability. So we have to check the following daw. So number one, ability of student performance. Same results every time the test is taken. So kahit sino pang students, I think kahit sinong students ang mag-take niyan, as long as there's no drastic difference when it comes to the result of the test, I think it's reliable. Number two, reliability of scoring. Regardless of who will check it, it should yield the same score range or the same result. Number three, reliability between different forms of the same test. So if you are to change certain items in the test, make sure that it is of the same level of difficulty. Or for example, an item which targets to test the student's critical thinking skills must not be replaced with an item that will only assess the student's identification skills. So it will not be of the same level of difficulty anymore. And hence, I believe it will not be that reliable. So how will reliability work? According to the webinar, we have to check the needs, resources, and programs. So we have to check also our school programs, our school policies, the resources that the school has, the teacher has, the student has, what are needed in the curriculum. So these things. Number two, look for tests online because according to the speaker, there are actually a lot of tests online that we can use, and these tests are proven to be reliable already. So you just really have to search now. Number three, find a good teacher partner. I'm not sure if all of us here have partner teachers, but as for my case, I have two partner teachers in grade 8, and it's really helpful because we get to talk to each other about the appropriate approaches that we will do to deliver a certain lesson. And then having a good teacher partner is also helpful because you can actually ask for the other teacher's advice, or you can rehearse the assessment with the teacher, and both of you can assess if it will be appropriate for the students. Next, we also have to check validity. So we have to ask ourselves these questions. What do we want to know? How will we use this info? And do my needs correspond to what's required? For example, I want to test if my students are capable of identifying or differentiating effective thesis statements from ineffective thesis statements. I have to check, is it stated in the curriculum? Is it a competency that is needed for my subject? And then how will I use the results now that I know that my students can really differentiate between the two? How then can I use this result in my teaching or in guiding my students further into the content that I'm discussing? Next, impact. So according to the speaker, in assessments, there's such a term as flashback, which refers to positive and negative effects. Positive flashbacks are those effects that are expected. For example, the test may encourage our students to study more or may promote a connection between standards and instruction. Siguro sobrang ganda nun, no? Parang achievement talaga yun sa atin if our assessments will give our students a boost and help and make them more motivated to learn more about our subject. As for negative flashback, this refers to the unexpected harmful consequences of a test. For example, instruction may focus too heavily on test preparation at the expense of other activities. So, nagpa-formative ka ng nagpa-formative dito sa isang aspect of learning na to. But then, maganda naman, oo. Pero in the process, you might have overlooked some competencies that should have been text assessed also. Okay, so according to the speaker, positive washback must outweigh the negative washback. Negative washback does not necessarily have negative effect. So the fact now that we teachers take note of these negative washbacks, we should also address it. And we will be guided na. As long as we take note of these, we are guided on what to address and how to address them. Next. Alright, so second factor that we have to look into is frequency. So does frequent testing contribute to greater achievement? According to the speaker, there's such a thing as the spacing effect. So for foundational materials, this should be learned after long intervals. Then material that is specific to a project or case study. I'm not sure if I understood this correctly, but I think this is the same with the basic lessons in English. For example, subject-verb agreement, verbs, nouns, modifiers. I notice how these are discussed every grade level. Nasa strengthen lang siya na reinforce, but these lessons are always there. And I think these are the foundational materials that students must master as they go along. So maybe that's the reason why these things are being discussed over and over again. A third factor that we have to consider according to the webinar is difficulty. Difficulty always depends on the learning objective. So we always have to revisit our objectives before we conduct our assessments or construct our assessments. So we have to ask ourselves if will objective number 1 be best tested through objective test items? Will objective number 2 be best tested through essay questions? I like this slide or this chart shown by the speaker. So it's Bloom's taxonomy and testing. It's easily accessible on Google. I think this is very helpful for us teachers because in the chart, you'll see the levels of learning, and then if you would notice above, it will give you a guide on assessment types that are applicable for the level of learning that you want to assess. So like knowing and comprehension, knowledge and comprehension. According to the chart, these can be best tested through objective test items. And then applying or application and analysis can be best tested through objective or essay items, while synthesizing and evaluating may be best tested through essay questions. So these are just guides, and I believe this will be very helpful. Alright, so in the webinar also, the speaker was able to mention some types of assessments and their disadvantages and advantages for us and our students. Just like in essay tests, right? The advantage is that we can give students a chance to organize, evaluate, and think, and therefore often have the best educational value. However, it's the hardest to grade. Kung nung old normal pa nga, mahirap na talaga siyang i-check how much more now in the new normal. But as teachers, we have to be innovative, and we have to devise a way on how we can still conduct essays effectively to the students. Next, multiple choice tests. So advantage through this, you can measure both information recognition and concept application. However, it's difficult to construct well. I remember when I was still studying in elementary, parang playtime lang yung choices sa tanong sa exam minsan. But then when I became a teacher, siguro sa mga researches na na-conduct, na-redefine na how teachers construct multiple choice tests. Because as teacher, you must still be able to let the students think and analyze based on the options that you give. Ano ba talaga yung best answer? So they should be able to think critically about that. Because before, pag may all of the above, akala ng bata yun na yung sagot. And minsan, yun talaga yung sagot. Same with none of the above. So, ngayon, medyo kailangan na ng mas matinding effort from the teacher. Next, types of assessments. Completion questions test. I'm not sure if this is the same with fill in the blanks. But if it is, the advantage is it can test the student's comprehension of key terms, their recall of concepts, but indefinite answers may arise. So, for example, you are looking for a very specific answer, like, let's say, science assessment, and you're looking for a specific type of plant, for example, aloe vera, but then your student just answered plant. So, plant naman ng aloe vera, yes, but since you were looking for a more specific answer, should you give the point? Should you give half point to the student? So, number 4, matching type questions. The advantage is you can test the recognition of relationship between pairs of words or between words and definition. However, since we have students who are very creative, maybe kaya nilang ipasa yung matching type assessment through the process of elimination. Pag ganun, if the students will just guess or go through the process of elimination, the assessment will no longer be effective. Alright, so fourth factor that we have to consider in preparing our assessments is scheduling. So, according to Birmingham University, regardless of how many days are scheduled for a given exam, majority of students take the test during the last day that an exam is available. Kahit outside of the Philippines, though, I think this is also the same with the students here. There are students who cram and just do the task at the last day or close to the deadline. And it's actually true. However, it is said that the average length of an exam or assessment given during the regular semester should be equivalent to one class period, typically 50 minutes. So to best ensure a 15-minute exam, the teacher should um, the teacher should be able to complete that test in 20 minutes or less. So we have to practice answering and time ourselves too. If we can answer in 20 minutes or less, then most likely students can answer this in one period. But still, according to the speaker, we still have to check our school procedures and policies as to scheduling our assessments. Okay, so fifth factor that we have to look into is feedbacking. So in feedbacking, we have to make sure that to justify to students how their mark or grade was derived. So we have our rubrics to back us up on this. So through the rubrics, we must be able to justify to the students why we only gave 4 out of 5 points. Number 2, identify and reward specific qualities in student work. So positive reinforcement is very helpful. And through this, students become more motivated to do their best in school. 3. Guide students on what steps to take to improve. So we scaffold them through our feedback. 4. Motivate them to act on their assessment. 4 and 5 are actually connected. So develop their capability to monitor, evaluate, and regulate their own learning. So we must teach also our students to take ownership of their learning. How do we give feedback to online assessment? So we should, just like in the traditional setup, we should be constructive, encouraging, and motivating. So how can we do this? We can do this through the sandwich method for positive, points of improvement, and positive. Number 2, actionable. So, kailangan makakagawa sila ng paraan through that feedback. Yung kaya pa siyang i-remediate. Number 3, clearly linked to assessment criteria. Next. So the speaker was also able to recommend some web tools for creating assessments or for conducting assessments. So for Synchronous, we have these video conferencing tools and then phone calls. I'm just not sure how phone calls would be good for a class with more than 30 students. And then asynchronous, so we have Google Forms for quizzes, and then learning management systems such as Google Classroom, Edmodo, Schoology, Canvas. But in case of low connectivity, we have Messenger, WhatsApp, mail, and direct phone calls. For Messenger, the disadvantage is if you're going to conduct a group call, only 8 people can attend the conference call. But for the advantage, Messenger does not consume much data than Zoom, Google Meet, or Microsoft Teams. WhatsApp, I'm not familiar with WhatsApp, but I think it's for messaging also like Viber. I'm not sure. Pag mail naman, snail mail, I don't think it's ideal if you aim to give immediate feedback to the student's learning or to the student's performance, matagal pa yan eh. And then, effort pa pumunta ng LBC or sa mga courier. Direct phone calls, I think direct phone calls are okay naman. If the school allows you, then you can just call the students and give the feedback regarding the performance. Or the parents also, you can just call the parents and tell them about the student's performance. Okay, so now that we have discussed all these things, like the types of assessments and the ways or how we can prepare our assessments in the new normal, are you still like this picture? Do you still have confusions? Do you still have apprehensions? Because me, I still have my apprehensions and confusion. I think it's okay naman. It's understandable because we are all learning everything step by step. And just again, just like what I said, everything is new. And para tayong nag-grope in the dark kung paano natin to gagawin at malalampasan. Pero hopefully, as we educate ourselves, well, hopefully we can be like this teacher, a teacher who is satisfied and confident enough because she's able to teach the students and to carry out her mission in teaching the students despite the challenges brought about by this pandemic. So that ends my report. Thank you very much for listening and God bless.